Welcome to another episode of Million Dollar Stories, where we get to interview authors from all over the world. I love talking to authors because they have the courage to take their thoughts, put it down on a piece of paper, and share it with the many, ultimately changing their legacy and destiny and maybe the world. If you're out there and you're looking to write a book, I recommend it. And if you need any help, check out dreamstarterspublishing.com. They can help you out with wherever you're at in the process. And if you already have a book and you want to put the book on autopilot to generate leads for your business, check out bookmarketingcrm.com. Now, the book that we're talking about today is perfect for the everyday entrepreneur who's looking to maybe build more relationships and to create cash flow monthly. Subscription models is really the name of the game. And the author is with us today, Ron Baker, who wrote a book. And are you ready for this? It's perfect. Time's Up, the subscription business model for professional firms. And it's ideal for me because once I implemented a subscription model within my agency, I believe I was able to strengthen the rapport, the relationship with many people, and serve them at a higher level. So it's an honor to have you here, Ronald Baker.
Oh,
Thanks so much, man.
thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Well, you have a really nice background. I was saying that before we hit the red button, but damn, that looks good. And it seems like you're very professional for a reason, right? You run a radio show, it sounds like, right? So if you can give us a quick little rundown on who you were, who you are now, maybe a little bit of a pathway, and what made you want to write this book.
Great, great. I'll try and keep my bio brief because it bores me, but I started out as a CPA in a big eight firm. And that's how you carbon data CPA, Mike. You hear them say big eight, big six, big five, big four, and I'm big eight. So I go way back. Uh,
Wow. See,
and
in mine, whenever I graduated from college, I think it was the big six. So that makes sense.
yep,
I was 2007. All right.
yep, that does make sense. So anyway, I knew I wanted to be a CPA when I was in high school, believe it or not. And got to work at the big eight firm and then left after 2.5 years, started my own firm. And as you know, being an entrepreneur, startup, man, you're wearing all the hats. You're marketing, you're sales, you're the pricer, you're the janitor, you're everything. And I realized really, really fast that the billable hour, the predominant way that professionals, a lot of professionals, lawyers, attorneys, even marketing agencies charge was a lousy customer experience.
Hmm.
And at the time, I was enmeshed in studying what back then were called total quality service companies, TQS,
Hmm.
which meant excellence in customer service. Companies like Lexus, FedEx, Disney, American Express, Gore-Tex, LL Bean, you name it. And I told my partner, I want to emulate these companies. I want to create a great customer experience. The billable hour is a crappy customer experience. So in 1989, we started experimenting with offering a fixed price to our customers. Yeah, we didn't know how long it was going to take, but that didn't matter. And the customer didn't care. They're not buying our hours, they're buying an outcome. So we gave them a fixed price. They loved it.
Wow.
And it enabled us to, stop selling time. We were no longer constrained by the number of hours in the day that everybody is subject to, all living creatures. I mean, time's a constraint. I cringe when people say time is our ultimate resource. It's not. It's a constraint. It depends on what you do with your time that makes it valuable to others, right? This is why people like Steve Jobs and Bill Gates can earn a lot more than the average because they use their time wisely. So anyway, we changed that business model in 1989, and it was so impactful and life changing for us. We got rid of timesheets. We were no longer selling time, so no reason to measure it. We started measuring things that the customer cared about. And I got so excited by this, I started teaching it to my colleagues, fellow CPAs around the United States. And I published my first book in 1998. And that book sold 40,000 copies, which is kind of interesting because it was a $150 book.
Oh, wow. It just took off. That's
Took
amazing.
off, took off around the world. And then in 2000, I sold my half interest of the firm to my partner, who still runs it, by the way. And I started consulting and writing. Since then, I've published 7 other books, but that first book was the launching pad for the value pricing revolution in CPA firms and to some extent, law firms as well, and other professional firms.
Well, I was talking to my CPA, I guess it was about 2 years ago, and he said that he was going to change it to this model. And it's very difficult, especially if you have hundreds and hundreds of clients. Well, he was going to change it to this subscription model and bring it down to maybe only 200 clients and serve them at a higher level. And the transition is difficult, and letting go of some people who will not sign up for the subscription model is difficult. So he thinks it's way better because he'll be able to produce a much better outcome. And you nailed it. They're not paying you for time at all. They're paying you for an outcome. And if you set it up this way, you most likely can help people at a much higher level, much more efficiently.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. When I proposed value pricing, that in itself was a business model change from hourly billing, basically moving from pricing inputs, time, to pricing outputs, a defined scope of work. If anything fell outside of that scope, of course, you had a change order, just like contractors and auto mechanics use. However, the subscription model, which is another business model change, blows up scope. My North Star for the subscription model are the concierge doctors and the direct primary care doctors. Now, your audience probably knows that Amazon made a big play in the DPC market by buying One Medical. And if you're a Prime member of Amazon, you can subscribe to One Medical, get your own private physician for like $8 a month.
Now,
Concierge doctors are more on the higher end. They cater to the top 5%, top 1% of income earners, people with a lot more money than time, and they've been around since 1996. They charge anywhere from $10,000 to $36,000 a year. But both of these practices, types of medical practices, are changing the way medical care is delivered. They don't take insurance, and they basically say, and remember, they're general physicians. So anything you need medically, whenever you need it, wherever you need it, they'll come to your home, your office, you're covered. Your subscription covers anything they do that you need. There is no scope. If you plunge a knife into your hand 5 times in a month, they'll stitch it up. It's covered. So
wow.
it's a form of convenience, peace of mind, insurance, even, that gives the customer peace of mind, and it just blows up scope. It puts the focus back on the customer, the relationship, which is sacred in the medical community. And when I studied these types of doctors, and there's over 2,000 of them, by the way. One Medical that Amazon bought for 3.2 billion is the largest DPC practice in the United States, but there's over 2,200 independent DPCs in all 50 states. And this is my North Star for the subscription model, especially as it applies to professional firms.
And so if you could just break it down, I think that everybody kind of understands the law firm structure or CPA structure where you pay for X amount of work, and then, okay, next month you would maybe reach out to them if you need any other help. But if you could just kind of show the difference. And so as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, you're you're always trying to sell people on time if that's the structure, right? So maybe you take a little bit longer, there's maybe not as much trust, or you do certain things to maybe expand that hourly rate. And I believe that many people will either say, well, I'm not going to contact them because I don't want to be billed, and therefore I'm going to distance myself from that person until it's really necessary. So,
Right.
number one, it makes it a lot easier for the entrepreneur to have that trust with the patient or client or customer if you do the subscription model, because it's just open access, but also predictable income, right? Now you have a way for you to say, I'm going to produce this much next month, which allows you to not so much focus on marketing, but more so maybe even building the systems and processes to serve the client. So many benefits. But can you just give us basically the contrast of what it was like before and after?
Yeah, I mean, either when you're hourly billing or even to some extent value pricing, you're in a transactional mindset. And
Hmm.
this is the revolutionary thing that direct primary care doctors and concierge doctors before them, this is what they blew up. They changed from a fee for service model. If you think about our healthcare system today, one of its major problems is they're in a fee for service model. They only get paid when they do something to you. an office visit, a test, a diagnostic, a procedure. They don't get paid for what they do for you.
Whew.
And the goal for the DPC docs and the concierge docs is not sure when you present with an illness, they'll cure it, but that's not the purpose. The purpose is to keep you healthy. That's a completely different paradigm. And since they have a track record now coming up on 30 years, we know that doctors or patients of DPC doctors have fewer hospital admissions, they have fewer ER visits, they take fewer drugs. And trust me, the drug companies have noticed this. That's why they're no fans of DPC. Regulators are not fans of DPC doctors because they operate under a different paradigm. They're there to keep you healthy, not just to cure you when you're sick. So it's more of a transformative type relationship. And when you think about other professionals, be they CPAs, lawyers, advertising agencies, which build brands, right? They transform businesses too. They transform humans too. But we don't use this language, Mike. We're stuck in this fee for service. I have to sell a pair of hands to get paid. No, it's a relationship. And what we're really doing is we're guiding transformations. We're taking the customer from where they are to some desired future state. And when you guide a transformation, the services become a means to an end. They're not the point of value. The transformation is the value. The customer becomes the product.
Mm. You said something there that the medical system, in my opinion, is totally backwards, right? You said a phrase which I don't know if I would totally agree with, where they're there to cure the sickness. I don't actually see them trying to cure. I think it's to ease the symptoms of the sickness, right? Therefore, you don't
Yeah,
notice it or you don't feel it as much. But
right, right.
basically, I looked at the medical world in 2020 and I said, what the hell? I trusted this. Well, it doesn't make any sense of why they're doing X, Y, and Z anymore. So I'm with you, though. I think maybe individuals who are paying money monthly for their health, they're more on top of things. They probably, where you put your money, you put your energy, right?
Yep.
And if you can avoid all that and you're focusing on eating healthy and you're catching things before it becomes really a problem, or there's monitoring that's going on, whether it's your taxes, your financial profit and loss situation, or your health, it doesn't matter. Just by paying attention to it consistently, not just when there's a problem, better outcome, better relationships, and way less problems over the long haul.
Totally agree. I mean, in business, we spend a lot of time talking about solving the customer's problem, what keeps you up at night. Okay, look, I'm a great believer in especially professionals solving problems. They're fantastic at it. However, if that's all we're doing for our customers is solving their problems, we're just reverting them back to the status quo. We're not advancing them. And businesses are in the privileged position of being able to advance consumers or customers to some desired future state. Even my landscaper offered me three packages. One was basic maintenance. One was we'll get your yard up to neighborhood standards so you stop getting these nasty HOA letters, right? Or he knew I was going to sell in a couple of years. How did he know that? He asked me. He put me through a series of questions, and he's actually sold me a package called "We'll give you the best curbside appeal in the neighborhood." Over time, he is upgrading my yard. I'm paying him on a subscription basis monthly. By the way, it's three times more than my prior landscapers, and I'm happier because of it because he's taking me to a new destination, best curbside appeal. That way, when I sell, I'll get a higher ROI. That's the type of thing we're talking about. We're talking about focusing on the transformation. The services he's performing to do that upgrade, I could care less. I could care less how much time he spends on any given day or when he does it. Who cares? All I'm looking for is that outcome. And that's what we need to get to when we talk about customer transformations.
Hmm. Now, I struggled in 2019, 2020, especially whenever the pandemic hit, because I only had one revenue stream and I realized it was very transactional, like you said. So when I started to implement this, it was a slow growth and it took me some time to get this ability to offer something that's recurring and setting up structure and procedures. So is the transformation for the firm difficult? Or is it a clean break, or is it basically slowly but surely you migrate away from the old model into the new model? And is there a process that you recommend within this book?
Yes, this is such a great question because disrupting yourself, the late Andy Grove used to say, disruption doesn't come inherently from technology, it comes from new business models. And to change a business model in a legacy firm is very difficult.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
not many examples in corporate history of companies that were able to successfully radically change their business model. Andy Grove from Intel is one of them. I mean, he walked in one day and said, "We're no longer in the memory chip business, we're in the microprocessor business." Well, he destroyed $1 billion of revenue overnight. You can imagine his shareholders weren't happy, his executives weren't happy, his board wasn't happy, but he saw the future. And he said, we can't continue making memory chips if the Japanese sell them at a lower price than it costs us to make them.
Hmm.
So he changed. Now that's an exception. Not many entities have been able to do that. So there are three pivot models that the book looks at how a firm, wherever it is now, can pivot to subscription. One is you create a new entity, you spin out a new firm, you go to the market with an uncommon offering. So you plus the offering. You can't, with subscription, you can't go to the market with a common offering, because if you go to the market with a common offering, you're going to command a common price. And so if you look at subscription businesses, they plus their offering, what Walt Disney called plussing. We need to constantly plus the park to bring people back, to delight them, unexpectedly give them surprises. He called that plussing. It's a beautiful concept. And they do it to this day. And if you do that, then you can create this new entity that starts with a clean slate. It's got a brand new economic offering. It tracks different KPIs. The accounting for subscription is completely different. The income statement looks different because it's more, as you know, Mike, it's more forward driven. It starts with annual recurring revenue and ends with annual recurring revenue balance, right? And it also is more valuable. The market values annual recurring revenue much more than it values what we call reoccurring revenue. Somebody comes to buy your business, they're going to put your revenue into two buckets: recurring revenue and reoccurring revenue. Reoccurring revenue includes transactional, one and done type, one off projects. Reoccurring revenue is kind of like a rash. You never know when it's coming back. But recurring revenue can get multiples much higher than reoccurring revenue.
Very different. Never heard it said that way, by the way. Reoccurring and recurring, two
Yep.
different things. Many people confuse it as the exact same phrase. It's not.
It's not at all. Recurring is much more valuable. So you spin out a new entity, and that slowly cannibalizes the old entity. Now I'll give you one quick example of a successful company that did this. Dayton Hudson. If you remember, in the 60s, there was like 320 department stores in the USA. And the CEO of Dayton Hudson at the time saw the rise of Kmart. This would have been the late 60s or so, saw the rise of, Sears was continuing to prosper. They were like 1% of the GDP at the time. Walmart wasn't even on the radar screen yet, but that was coming. And he said, Dayton Hudson, we're not up there with Neiman Marcus. We're not down there with Kmart. We're stuck in the middle. And that's not a good place to be from a branding positioning standpoint, because you get squeezed from both ends. So he tried an experiment. He spun out a new entity. And that entity, he put he made it a different economic offering that would be better than Kmart, but not to the level of Sears. And of course, that spin out was Target.
Oh, man.
And the fascinating thing about this, and this was a case study that Clayton Christensen did at Harvard Business School, the fascinating thing about that, when he did this, Dayton Hudson was flying high. They were at the apogee of their financial performance. There was no burning platform. There was no fear. There was no reason to do this. He did it because he saw where the market was going, and it made him nervous. Andy Grove used to say, if you're going to be cannibalized, it's best to dine with friends, meaning we should cannibalize ourselves before the competition cannibalizes us.
Jeez, oh, man. What year was that?
I think it was in the 60s. And then I forget when that Target was started. I want to say 70 something,
I thought it
but
was 71. For some
something
reason,
like
that
that.
number
Yep.
sticks out to me.
The story's in the book. The
Okay.
stories in my Time's Up book. And there's one more story that I have in that book that talks about how Charles Schwab did the same thing when they went from brick and mortar investment to online investment. They took the price down from $99 to $29. But here's the thing: when you create a new entity with a new economic offering, it's got a different revenue model, and the revenue model is really important. The revenue model says, what are we asking our customers to pay us for? This is not the pricing model question. That's how much do we want the customer to pay. The revenue model is, what are we asking them to pay for? I contend it's not the products and services anymore. I think the world's moving to a transformation economy where we're going to start paying businesses for how they guide us to a better state of mind, more healthy, wealthy, or wise, to borrow Ben Franklin's term. And that's the apogee of value.
Wow. Okay. I love the whole new creation of an entity because I did that whenever I went from transactional business and that's it. And there was no recurring revenue. I figured out, okay, I need to create a new entity, and that's why I need to create a new agency that's separate. Therefore, we are able to have a new brand and image that offers something, and therefore it allows us to kind of find ourselves without hurting the original brand. So I'm
Yeah.
on the right track at least with step one. What's step two? Did I lose
And
you? There you go.
we'll take our customers in the tax department or the audit department or whatever, and we'll move them to subscription. The problem with this model is it's low risk. I'll give you that. You're putting your toe in the water, but low risk.
Ron, you there? Ron,
Oh,
that was really good. Really good what you're saying. Can you go back a step? I
sure.
lost
I'm
you.
sorry. Where did I lose you?
You were just about to say when I asked about step two, you were
Ah,
choppy. So can we just start with that
okay.
again? I'm sorry.
No problem. No problem. Um, okay. The second model to pivot is when you do it gradually. You take a certain tranche of your customers and you say, we're going to put these on subscription. Now, this is a low risk test, I'll grant you, but it's also, if it's low risk, that means it's low reward.
Oh, yeah.
Profits come from risk, right? There's no guarantees in the world, especially in entrepreneurship and business. Profits come from risk. Long before Steve Jobs made an iPod or an iPad or an iPhone, he had to have supply chains. He had to pay employees, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's all risk. Everything we do in business is a risk, and there are no guarantees. But so if you take a low risk test, you have a chance for a low reward. Plus, when you do something gradually like that, it's so easy to sabotage it for the people inside the company that don't believe in this new direction, to sabotage it and say, see, I told you it wouldn't work. We tried this back in the Truman administration and it just doesn't work. And the other problem with it is you can't run two different business models out of the same firm or
Bingo. That's what I
company.
thought.
I
That's what I
think a
thought.
lot of people think you can. And some businesses do. Look, Apple does it. Apple is a hardware company, but they're also predominantly, I think, in the future, going to be more of a subscription firm. About 20% of their revenue comes from services, music and all the other types of services they sell. Why I can't subscribe to Apple, I don't know. And maybe that's a topic for another day. I would like to be able to subscribe to Apple, and they just send me a new laptop every 2 years, a new iPhone, a new iPad, whatever the latest and greatest technology, and just put me on a subscription. That way, it's just hassle free. I don't have to worry about it. It's not a transactional thing; it's a relational thing. But that that either way, when you have two business models under the same roof, unless you have the resources and managerial talent of an Apple or a Disney, it's kind of like having two spouses. You can do it, but you're probably not going to like the results. And but even more than that, Mike, why would you want to do it? It's confusing to have two business models.
Agreed.
You're trying to be all things to all people that way. And it's like I joke with CPAs. If CPAs were veterinarians, the sign outside their office would say veterinarian and taxidermist. That way they can tell their potential customers, either way, you get your cat back.
Wow, you're right. It is confusing not only for the customer, but for the team. And you were so right about how communication will break down because, hey, are they subscription or are they transactional or like how are these people getting paid? It just really removes any type of confusion if you have it. So it's one or the other. And maybe that's what you're talking about, a clean break in the next one where you just stop and start and almost make it so January 1st is a whole new fresh slate going forward. And therefore, we do things according to these SOPs. So that might
Right.
be number three. Is that
That
right?
is number three. It's on a particular date in the future. We are no longer. This is what Adobe did.
Yeah.
They said, this date we're no longer selling box software. Everything is going to be online. You're going to subscribe. We're going to upgrade it automatically. We're not going to support the older software. We're not going to upgrade it. And they just made that pivot. Now it pissed off a lot of people. Their stock took a major dive, but of course they're flourishing ever since they made that change, and they saw that trend before a lot of other people did. I mean, Salesforce kind of innovated and designed the software as a service model, but other people just picked the future. Other firms just picked the future date, and that's a successful model. But the most successful transition or pivot to subscription has been when you spin out a new entity.
So when I saw Microsoft do this, right, they did it with Microsoft Windows and they went to subscription. I thought it was so gutsy because it was, what was it, $65 or something just for the
Yeah,
product. And then all of a sudden it was like $9 or $10 per month. I'm like, man, that's really gutsy to do that. But it makes so much sense because valuation of a company skyrockets with recurring revenue,
it
period.
does. And
So,
anytime your firm is adding recurring value, and that's the key here, you've got to be able to deliver recurring value and plus it. We get challenged all the time. How could a funeral home be on subscription? How could a realtor be on subscription when they're so transactional? And you know what? I think there's a way they could do it. I haven't given it much thought because I'm not in those sectors, but I think there's a way to subscribe to a funeral home the day you're born. Why not? Maybe it's a penny a month, until and goes up gradually over your lifetime. I don't know, but I think there's a way to do it. We just need to bring some creativity to it.
wow, you're right. There's the way, right? I'm thinking even when it comes to just I believe it once you break away from the transactional philosophy and you start to see where can I add value, there is somewhere in the business model that you can implement that maybe nobody else is doing that could be the value add that can be something that you pay monthly for.
Right.
Case in point, maybe, when it comes to a funeral home if they do something for your family name every month, or for the grave site, or it's just something that you pay for so you don't ever have to worry about it. And if you do the math on it, you're actually getting it for a much cheaper price than if you did it all at once. If you do
Yeah.
that, my God, you can win big, I think. So,
Yeah, one of my favorite questions to ask any business, because I used to speak at a lot of different conferences in front of a lot of different sectors, including funeral homes. And no matter what business conference you're at, you're going to hear our product or service is becoming a commodity. And this frustrates me so much because Procter and Gamble sells toilet paper and paper towels, and they don't view those products as commodities. They have $1 billion brands, for crying out loud, and Charmin and in toilet paper. If they can differentiate toilet paper, we should be able to differentiate whatever it is that we sell. And I love to ask business audiences, what would happen if Disney started funeral homes? Would the experience be the same?
oh
Do you
no.
think the price would be cheaper? Do you think they'd plus the offering, bring something more to it? And I just think that, like you said, once you unshackle yourself from this transactional mindset, it opens up Pandora's box of possible value that is just amazing. My
So,
favorite couple of favorite examples of subscription is Porsche Drive. Porsche Drive now I think is in 13 or 14 cities, and you can subscribe to a Porsche. Now the top plan, which is around 5 grand a month, I believe, or 4,500 a month, is you have access to 7 different models. That means that you can call them up and say, "Hey, I've got friends coming. Come get my convertible." and bring me out an SUV so we can take them wine tasting. And they'll white glove out an SUV, take away the other one. You can change as much as you want. You can do this every day if you wanted to. And people say, well, how is that different than buying or leasing a Porsche? It's not tied to a car. You now have a direct relationship with Porsche. You are subscribing to Porsche. Not only that, they're going to know what you're doing in that car. They're going to know where you're going, what your entertainment, what your restaurant preferences are. They're probably going to monetize that down the road, but you're subscribing to Porsche, and that's a different relationship. It also shows you that it's a plus offering because it's not about one car.
Wow. Never even heard of that. That is brilliant, though. It's a way of looking at, oh, well, you could lease a car. Well, you want the white glove service? Do you want special bonuses? Do you want to, once again, have that relationship with somebody up in Porsche to stand out so you get treated in a certain way and have bonuses and amenities that other people don't have access to? This is how you do it.
No
And so,
maintenance, no
no
no oil
maintenance.
changes, no hassle, tire rotate, none of that. All goes away. And here's the killer stat from this program so far: 80% of the people that subscribe to a Porsche are new to the brand.
Oh,
What are they going to be driving for the rest of their lives? What do you think?
oh, yeah, you get the, and that's another aspect of it. You get them to fall in love. It's a taste, right? And maybe you don't have the fees and all that for the cancellation because the subscription model, in my opinion, gets people in. And once again, you have a lower price point. Maybe you don't have, maybe you have different tiers, right? The 97 a month, the
And they do.
$500 a month, $1,000, the 20 to 2,500. This now allows you, and once again, there's all kinds of psychology you might be talking about in your book that it shows that most people will pick the middle
Sure.
package. So make sure that
Yep.
that is the really the big go-to, but also the most profit margin, the one that satisfies most without getting crazy. But then you have the VIP, the ones who really want the white glove service. So therefore you have multiple tiers. And then therefore, if you have these multiple tiers and you're not selling time, you could grow your divisions according to the demand based off of each package.
That's right.
And your team will be happier. You won't have to market as much. It'll be more simple within your team. The customers will refer others based off of how easy it is to work with you. And then most likely individuals who they refer are very much exactly like them, right? They're in the same package level. It's pretty wild.
It is. I mean, if you keep a customer subscribed for 1 year, you've got a 95% chance of keeping them for life. So that plays in your favor, which is one of the reasons why recurring revenue is so much more valuable than reoccurring revenue. Yeah, no, it's amazing. And it's convenient when MD Square started the concierge doctor movement. It was a guy named Howard Moran. He was the team doctor for the Seattle Sonics, the NBA team, and he said, wow, he said, when one of my players gets hurt in a game, I can go out there. I know everything about these guys. I know their family history. I know what drugs they take. I know what they're allergic to. I can get them back in the game almost instantly. He says, why don't I know that about my patients? He was a general physician. He said, because I have 2,400 patients. The average GP in the US has 2,400 patients, which is why you get to spend 5 minutes with them. And they see 50 or 60 people a day. The average concierge doctor, at least in MD squared, he limited it to 50 patients or 50 families per doctor. So married couple, maybe a couple kids. And when he started that practice, Mike, in 1996, it was 24 grand per couple plus 5 grand a year for each kid. And people told him, you're nuts. This is never going to work. You don't take insurance. People aren't going to subscribe to a doctor. And he said, yes, they will, because when they come in, we shut the door and lock it behind them. We have no waiting rooms. We'll fly to them if they're on vacation or on business trip. We'll go to them. If we have to coordinate care with surgeons or whatever happened, emergency, we'll go to their office. Whatever, and people love it. You talk to anybody who's got a concierge doctor or a DPC doctor, they would never go back to the fee for
Nope.
service.
Because they
You
feel
know,
like an assembly line when they go back to that. They're a
bingo.
part of the assembly line, right? And they're just a product that is being just moved through and just they'll be forgotten about the moment they leave the door. And so I think there are two things in your favor. Anybody listening out there, number one, the world is way more acceptable of this subscription model, right? Most people are doing the Amazon Primes, the Netflixes, and whatever already. So you can use this psychological change to your advantage because people are more willing to accept the subscription model. But also, I do believe that people want that one-on-one. They want the connection. They want to feel special. They want more attention given to them and their situation, the unique experience. And this is your time that you can do it, whether you're a CPA or a doctor or a law firm or a book publishing company like ours. We help
Mm,
out with our clients way more simply because we are meeting up with them once a month and it's a
mm,
unique, tailored experience. So I'm with you
love it.
on this. And I love the psychology and the stats that you just said. If they are a client for a year, there's a 95% chance that they will stay on for life. Did I just hear that right?
Yep, that's correct.
Oh, man. Any other
Yeah,
stats like
it's
that stand out?
it's wild. I'll give you two more examples that I just love of subscription plays that are just brilliant. Fender, which I believe is the largest guitar manufacturer in the world. I'm not sure if it's the world, could be just the US. But anyway, the CEO of Fender said selling guitar is kind of a pain because people are all excited when they buy their first guitar. They probably have a music, lesson lined up or whatever. He said 95% of them quit within 6 months. And he said, then the guitar goes under the bed or in the closet. And he said, worse yet, they'll give it to their cousin and I'll lose another sale. So the CEO, I think in 2016, started Fender Play, which was a digitized library of thousands of videos on how to play the guitar from beginner to, I'm sure, advanced and beyond even. And when COVID struck and we were all locked down making bread and learning new languages, he opened up Fender Play and made it available for, I think it was 90 days. He had 1 million downloads in like a day. It crashed the system. And in 2020, 21, 22, 23, Fender sold more guitars than they ever had in their corporate history yearly. And that was because people subscribed to Fender Play. And when the CEO was asked, what did you learn from this? He said that we're not selling guitars, we're selling musicianship.
Oh, man.
See, that's a
Oh,
that's a transformation. That's changing the customer. The guitar is the means to an end, and hopefully they did, they upgraded guitars because as you get better you want a better guitar or
yep.
electric guitar or whatever, and that happened as well. So it was a hybrid model. He still sold the SKU guitars. I don't think they've gone to subscription for the guitar. I think they could. I just probably haven't thought about it enough. The other example I just love, and this is Sinsam Lifestyle, and this is out of the Nordic countries. This is a company that started that said, getting glasses, contacts, pain in the butt. A lot of, go over here for the eye test, go over here for the glasses, get fitted, blah, wait 2 weeks. There's just a lot of, shoe leather expended and a lot of hassle. He said, we're going to simplify this. You're going to subscribe. I think it's like 120 euros a month, and you're going to get as many eye exams as you need. If your doctor wants you to have a couple in a year, that's fine. If your prescription changes, don't worry. We'll upgrade 5 pairs of glasses, contacts for you. That's all part of it, all included. And it's all a seamless system. They have brick and mortar locations. It's all seamless. As you can imagine, Mike, eyewear, pretty mature industry.
Yep.
Everybody said, nobody's going to do this. Nobody's stupid enough to subscribe to eyewear. And the SinSam founder said, we're not asking them to subscribe to eyewear. We're asking them to subscribe to perfect eyesight.
A new
This
way
is
of looking at it.
absolutely, this is
And
my
the
landscaper best curbside appeal. What's your customer's best curbside appeal? What's their musicianship? What's their perfect eyesight? Take them all the way through to the transformation. Stop focusing on the product or the service. Talk about what it does for them, how it will change them. Even if it's a minor change, it doesn't have to be something life changing like getting married or having a kid. It can be a gradual, a smaller type transformation. But if you focus on that language, it's better messaging and marketing. I mean, I think about becoming a first time author. That's a major milestone in any, when you get that first book from the publisher and it's yours,
You'll never forget that.
you'll
You'll
never
never.
forget it. True.
And they feel the confidence, right? The clarity, in my opinion. That's what I always talk about the transformation. It's like a hero's journey, but the clarity that you obtain by writing your first book or putting it out there or making it a bestseller and now having the confidence to stand on stage or get on a podcast. What's the value in that? I'm telling you, it's immeasurable because
Yeah,
it changes the identity of the person.
it does.
Well, I could talk to you for hours. I do have to run. This is phenomenal. Guys, if you want to check out his website, it is the timesupclub.com, or timesupclub.com, and also the soulofenterprise.com. The book that we are referencing today is Times Up, the subscription business model for professional firms. And he's easy to find on social media. The two ones, the two individual ones that I have here at Ronald Baker. Is that Instagram?
It's X.
Oh, okay. So that's on X and LinkedIn. He's easy to find. That's how we found you. So,
Yeah.
Ron, I have to say this has been very eye-opening. I had no idea that the stat is that strong. 95%. I'm going to be using that, and also some of the things you said. I'm going to make sure my team listens to because this has changed my life. So, thanks so much for being here, sir.
Thank you, Mike. It was an honor.
And yeah, you write so many books. Please come back on again, okay? Because this has
Will
been
do.
very fascinating.
Excellent.
Guys, pick up his book, Time's Up, the subscription business model for professional firms on Amazon. 4.6 review ratings, 4.6 stars in the ratings. Incredible. It's resonating, and he has many books, so look him up. And remember, $1 million book will lead to $1 million life. Right on.